Commander Apti Alaudinov, leader of the Akhmat Special Forces, delivered a deeply charged speech following the tragic death of Russian General Igor Kirillov, calling for vengeance and vowing a renewed push against the army of Satanists in Ukraine. Speaking directly to his comrades and the nation, Alaudinov framed the ongoing Special Military Operation, SMO, as a sacred war, emphasizing divine justice for those responsible for terrorist acts. May our enemy rest in peace, and of course, my condolences to the family, Alaudinov began, his tone shifting between somber respect for the fallen and righteous anger. He extended condolences on behalf of the entire Akhmat Special Forces unit to Kirillov's family before outlining the battlefield situation. Alaudinov described the relentless advance of Russian forces, highlighting significant territorial gains and asserting that Ukraine was struggling to hold positions despite substantial reinforcements.
Today, the special military operation is still progressing toward its end. Our troops are advancing in large strides, taking 1 or 2 settlements daily and liberating vast territories. The enemy already understands that they cannot stop our forces. On our section, they are already being pushed back and destroyed. We are gradually moving forward. It turns out that the enemy understands that they lack both the strength and resources to hold on to everything, even though they are throwing everything they have at it.
While asserting the enemy's inevitable defeat, Alaudinov offered insight into his strategic outlook, speculating that Ukraine, running out of resources, would eventually seek negotiations, driven by desperation rather than diplomacy.
We know that the enemy has a limited resource, and it is clear they will attempt to use it in a way that leads to negotiations, as they know they will be forced to sit at the table. It is likely that this will happen around December 20th, or possibly during the new year, in the early days of January.
In the most impassioned section of his address, Alaudinov invoked a spiritual dimension to the conflict, characterizing it as a war against evil forces. He claimed that the enemy is a coalition of Satanists who will stop at nothing to harm Russia and its people, but reassured his audience that Russian forces remain steadfast, adhering to God's commandments.
We are in a sacred war. Those who are on the front lines and those in the rear, in Moscow, everywhere, we are all fighting together against the army of the Antichrist, Dajjal. We are all in the same ranks. Against us is fighting our enemy, the army of Satanists, who will stop at nothing. They are making every effort to strike us in the back from all directions. But we, in turn, have chosen the tactics of a manly approach, and for these 3 years, we have behaved with dignity, fairly, and as true men who adhere to God's commands.
Alaudinov's speech took on an ominous tone as he vowed retribution for all acts of aggression against Russia. He stated that no corner of the world would be safe for those responsible for attacks against Russia, particularly the recent terrorist attack that claimed Kirillov's life.
The enemy will be punished, both on the front lines and in the rear, wherever they may be. Let us not allow them to feel secure anywhere. I believe that the enemy will not escape the punishment that awaits them, both from God and from us. Our whole life will be dedicated to avenging our enemies who committed these terrible crimes, terrorist attacks in our country. Wherever they hide, wherever they may run, they are unlikely to escape responsibility for it.
Calling for national mobilization, Alaudinov urged every Russian to contribute to the war effort, whether on the battlefield or in supporting roles. He also issued a stern warning to internal provocateurs and traitors, cautioning them against destabilizing Russia. His message echoed directives from Supreme Commander Vladimir Putin.
Let us mobilize on the front lines, in the rear, in our prayers for Russia and for our soldiers. Let us do everything possible to ensure that we bring this war to its logical conclusion with the army of the Antichrist, Dajjal, these fascists, without yielding to any provocations or to some discussions led by our enemies, who are both abroad and within our country. Not all those who claim to be Russian or say they are patriots are truly so. Only those who want the preservation of Russia, those who are trying to save it, and those who care for it are truly the sons of Russia. Those who try to make some provocations must understand that they will also be held accountable.
As Russia's SMO continues, Alaudinov's rhetoric underscores the fusion of military strategy, spiritual justification, and a promise of retribution that defines the Russian narrative of the conflict. In the commander's eyes, the war is not merely a territorial dispute, but a battle for the soul of the nation, waged against forces of chaos and destruction. Meanwhile, Chechen boss sent another batch of decorated and trained Chechen fighters to join Russian army in the war. The Chechen Republic has made a formidable contribution to Russia's Special Military Operation, SMO, in Ukraine, with over 51,000 fighters deployed since the operation began. This includes 20,400 volunteers, highlighting the strong commitment of Chechen forces. Currently, more than 10,000 Chechen soldiers are on active duty in Ukraine, with 6,470 being recognized for their bravery and heroism in combat. Additionally, the Regional Public Foundation, named after hero of Russia, Akhmat Haji Kadyrov, has provided vital support, contributing over 35 billion rubles to supply troops with necessary equipment. The Chechen Republic's dedication to the SMO underscores its critical role in Russia's military efforts in Ukraine.